Okay, we're going to start to add things like heads and feet to our clay body that we built out of pinch pots yesterday. So I want to start to analyze how I'm going to build all this stuff. So let's remember the 3 techniques we've already learned in this class. Pinch. We know that making pinch technique is for making small round pots, pinch pots. Coil. We know that coil makes round cylinders. Do you guys remember when you rolled the coil bases? Okay, we were making round cylindrical shapes. Slab. Slab technique is great if you're making flat things, when you roll out a slab, or geometric things. Like remember our slab box? Slab technique is good for flats and geometrics. So I'm gonna take a look at my drawing of, let's say if I wanted to do a dog. I know this part of him would be pinch. I know his head will be pinch. There's my 2 pinch pots. I might actually do another pinch pot here. Now, I'm gonna look at the legs. Do these look like pinch pots or do they look like coils? I think they're real small, so they look like they should be coil. So I'm gonna roll out some coils to make those legs. And also the tail. Coil. Sorry, that's hard to read. Okay, how about the nose? Actually, I'm going to roll a sphere and cut it in half. So I'll just be rolling a sphere shape for the nose and cutting it in half and sticking it on there. Remember, I want to keep my clay about this thick. About that thick is about the most thick I want it to be. But I can do a nose out of solid clay that's about that big. Make it into a sphere. Should be perfect. All right, so I kind of have a plan for how I'm going to make this guy. I think maybe here I'm going to make these out of little slabs because the ears are flat. So I remember for slab it's going to be flat. All right, let's look at our bunny. If I'm going to make this bunny, I know I'm going to make 2 pinch pots. And they're going to look kind of like this. What about this little face? I can make this out of solid clay because remember, it can be as thick as my finger or my thumb, so that's okay. I'm gonna make this little nose shape kind of out of a squashed sphere or a sphere cut in half. Okay, so I'll call it a flat sphere. And I know I'm going to roll out a ball shape and I'm going to smush it flat. And then I'm going to make his nose. What about this leg? Do you guys think this is a slab or a coil? If you said coil, you're correct. And this one will be another flat sphere. Okay? The cool thing about working on this drawing for size is I know how big I have to make stuff, right? I know I got to make a coil that big. I know I got to make a flat sphere this big. How about the ear? Is the ear going to be round like a coil or flat like a slab? I'm going to make it flat like a slab. Okay, so now I know what I need to build for this little guy. A sphere, don't I? I know what I need to build and I know how big they need to be. And I also know if they're round, they're going to be a coil. If they're flat, they're going to be a slab. Okay, so now you kind of have knowledge of what you want to build next.
Yeah, chicken fingers and fries. Chicken fingers and fries, I think our bill is $30.
So for little legs like this one, you can roll coils. You might have to hold it up to your real clay body to see if it fits. Let's make the nose. It's just a sphere that's been squashed a bit flat. When you put two new pieces of clay together, use your wood popsicle stick or your wooden smoothing tool to join them at first, and then you will use the sponge every single time to make that union very, very smooth. Spend a lot of time with your sponge. This is where your craftsmanship will really show up. Make it as smooth as possible. Let's talk about those ears, which we will make out of slabs because they are flat. Keep them a little bit thick, at least as thick as a pencil. Anytime you make a cut, spend some time with your sponge to make everything really smooth. Fit your ear on your animal. Slip and score every time. Always join with your popsicle stick or your smoother, and always follow up with your sponge. Sometimes you'll have to look carefully at how to fit things. The fun thing about wet clay is you can change your mind and experiment with different ways that you want things to look. Here's one way to make a nose on a mammal. Notice I'm not gouging and scratching into the clay. I'm pressing using the side of the needle to make impressions. There are many ways to make different features on your animal. This is just one. Here I'm using a popsicle stick to push the chin in so it looks like the jowls on the dog extend over the chin. This is a good trick anytime you want to make things look like there are different levels or different layers. Here's one way to make a nose for a dog. Once again, using your wooden tool to always join with some pressure the two pieces of clay, always to be followed with a damp sponge. Remember, your clay is really wet, so if you don't like the shape of something like this nose, you can push it down and make it flatter, or change it how you wish. Here's one simple way to make eyeballs. There's lots of ways to make eyes. It's entirely up to you as an artist. At this point, I'm not loving the shape of his nose, and so my clay is really wet on that pinch pot, so I'm able to recontour the head and the cheeks and the neck and the jowl and anything I want because the clay is really wet and fresh. I decided I wanted to do some back leg haunches, kind of like the rabbit drawing has. I like those back legs. Remember what a good tool your credit card is, or your metal smoothing rib. Really good for smoothing out pieces of clay. Here's a fun and easy way to make paws. Just squash the end of your coil a little bit to make it flatter and press in some toes. I'll make a simple cone for the tail of the animal and slip and score it on. Here's a trick to know where you need to score under the tail. Just take and scratch a little line in there. Remember to put vent holes anywhere you think there might be air trapped. You can keep them small and subtle. You don't want to rip a big hole in your project. You just need little holes to let the air out. What if you have a flat part of your sculpture and you need to use slab? Let's put a ridge in that rabbit's ear as a nice detail. Try and press it down and push into it, kind of like we did for the dog's mouth, to make a high area and a deep area. Let's pretend that this is a rabbit. You'd want to support that ear with clay underneath it. You could also just support it on two spots like this. See, it looks like a handle, but at least it's not sticking up straight where it will break off. Make sure to slip and score it. You'd never want to just stick it straight up like this because it would break right off. Remember, my pinch pot is really wet and I can recontour underneath the animal where it looks a little thick. I can press into it and give it some nice, really good contouring. That looks better. Unfortunately, I just filled in my air hole, so I'll have to remember to go back and poke it again. I decided to put a mane on this animal, so I rolled a coil and flattened it out. I slipped and scored, and I'm going to add this big piece of clay, carefully pressing it down, not to get air holes or anything. Use my wood tool to make a hair-like texture as I unify it with the animal's form. This only works if your clay is quite wet. After I get done making the hairlines, I'll just finish with a wet sponge to make it look smooth.